cooking with a kid. I'm actually going to be making 2 dishes tonight, but they will also be in 2 separate videos. The first one is going to be beef tips or steak tips with portobello mushrooms and onion. We're going to season that with a little bit of Montreal seasoning. The second one is Hasselback potatoes. Okay, for the prep work, we're going to start off with the ingredients. I have here some boneless, what I've cooked in the past, charcoal steaks. Now, all charcoal steaks are the ends of a sirloin roast. There's only 2 ends on a sirloin roast when they go to cut it up. These are the end pieces, and my butcher calls them charcoal steaks. So we're going to cut those up. Like I said, I'm making extra. A lot of times you say, well, there's only you and your wife. Well, when we make these recipes, I make extra so that we have leftovers. So we have the charcoal steaks, and I'm going to cut them up right now. So basically what I do to cut them up is I'll just cut them into strips. Like I said, these 2 pieces of meat are very tender. If you don't eat meat, like I said, you may find a little bit of a place that needs to be cut out. If it's a little tough, just cut it out and put it to the side. But I'm basically going to make tips about that size. Take away a lot of the extra fat that's in here. Some of you don't eat red meat, but I'll take out a lot of the extra fat. Just cut them up into tender beef tips. And I'll bring you back and show you what they look like when they're all cut up. Alright, I'm going to cut up a couple of these onions. I've got the meat cut up. I'm going to cut up a couple of these onions and get all of that out of the way. Got a couple of sweet onions there. We're going to cut those up. Alright, I'm just going to cut them. What I do is I cut them in half. Then I kind of just go around the circle. Cut them roughly in half, and I just go around the circumference of the onion. Hopefully you can see that all right. Next thing I'm going to cut up are some baby portobello mushrooms. Now I'm going to wash them. So I usually get the ones that are already sliced, but they didn't have any. So I'm going to slice my own. So I'll take some time to go through here and slice these mushrooms, and I'll bring you back. Okay, as you can see, I've got our mushrooms all chopped up. And really, the first time that I had this dish was in Washington, D.C. And I won't say it's exactly like theirs, but it's the first time in a little sports bar outside, may have been more in Arlington. I got this, I ordered beef tips, and it came with onions and mushrooms. And really the only seasoning they used was Montreal steak seasoning, Grill Mates. And so I'm going to put this in an electric skillet. I'm going to add some Montreal steak seasoning, and I'll show you how to put it together. Alright, hopefully you can see that okay. I'm going to put just a little bit of olive oil, maybe a couple of teaspoons of olive oil. I've got the electric skillet turned up pretty high. I'm going to start off with beef. So I'm going to slide that in. And I know we've got some vegetarians out there. I'm not intentionally trying to offend you. I appreciate your support. I know we have some people with some dietary restrictions, and you can't eat some of the things that I make, but I appreciate your support. So I'm going to hit it with a little bit of Montreal steak seasoning. Now what's in this? There's salt, there's pepper, there's garlic, there's some other seasonings. I'm just going to put some of that in there. When I was in Washington at the little sports bar, this was the main seasoning of the dish. And it just really stood out to me. So I'm going to cook this beef down just a little bit, get a little bit of caramelization on them. Then I'm going to add the onions and the mushrooms. All right, I don't want to cook that too much before I add the vegetables, so let me go ahead and add mushrooms and the onion. Going to add it all together. And to speed up the process, I am going to add a little bit more Montreal. Like I said, it's got chunks of garlic and some other seasonings in it, pepper. So I'm going to cover it, and I'm going to let the onions and the mushrooms sweat down a little bit. All right, as you can see, obviously, it's cooking down. I'm going to put the lid back on it. There's still a lot of moisture in here. I'm going to cook it a little bit longer, then I'm going to remove the lid and finish cooking it down. I'm actually going to add a little bit of French onion soup at the end. Just a little, maybe half a can. And it's going to give it a little bit more broth. But I'm not really making stew, I'm making really dry beef tips, but it's going to cook onto it. So we'll see how that works. But again, a lot of moisture. And we want to get that, we want to cook those onions down especially, but those onions and those mushrooms will wilt down and it'll come together. All right, everybody, everything is cooked down. I'm going to take the top off and let all this moisture evaporate. And then we're going to put some color on these onions and beef tips. I'm going to stir that for a little while and get all that extra moisture out of there. Then I'll show you putting a little color on it. All right, everybody, here they are. Beef tips, onions, and mushrooms. And they smell really good. They are very tender. You could call them steak tips, you could call them beef tips. But there they are. All right, everybody, there they are. Beef or steak tips with mushrooms and onions. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it is good to you. All right, everybody, thank you for watching Cooking with the Kid. I hope you enjoyed that. And a very simple recipe, and hope you enjoyed it. And maybe something you want to try. So again, thank you for watching. Until next time, we appreciate every one of you for subscribing and watching and liking the videos, and continue with the comments. And we'll catch you next time. Until then, goodbye.